this is Julissa. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming back to my channel. Thank you so much to everybody who's listening right now in the podcast. Today is Saturday, it is Sunday, April 27, 2025. I wanted to speak today about the death of Rey Rivera in Baltimore, Maryland, okay? Before I continue, I want to say thank you so much to everybody who's listening using Spotify. Do not forget to follow me there, and thank you so much to everybody who's watching this video right now on YouTube. Don't forget to share and like the video. So this story, and I don't even know if I'm gonna have to do a part 2 of the I might have, because there's a lot of unanswered questions regarding the death of Rey Rivera, and this happened in 2006. And I know there's a lot of people who are familiar with this case, but I'm still gonna give you kind of like a little more details of exactly what happened and who Rey Rivera was, okay? Just over the weekend, I was able to head out to be in Maryland, and I was able to go out there and see the Belvedere Hotel, where everything happened here, and where his body was discovered, okay? And I'm gonna put here some videos and photos of what I was able to capture outside of the Belvedere Hotel, and you'll be able to see it if you're watching this video on YouTube. And if you're interested, as you listen to the podcast in any of the apps that the podcast is available, you'll be able to feel free to come to the Julissa Designs YouTube channel to look at the videos. So this is one of those cases that, like I said, every time there's a new podcast about it, every time somebody's making a video about it, I like to watch it because there's so many unanswered questions. And I didn't even know. I was like, I can't believe I haven't made an episode about Rey Rivera. And because I feel like I didn't even know how to what to think of it, okay? Because every possibility that I create in my head, I'm like, well, there might be already an answer for that, but there are certain things that you like, that's a little weird, that doesn't make sense, okay? And it's a very sad case when it comes, he was just a newlywed, he was just recently married, and it's a very sad case to see how he ended up and how he was found, So let me just tell you who he was, okay? Rey Rivera, he was originally from Puerto Rico, I believe. And by the way, if you're listening to the podcast, his first name is spelled Rey, like king, is R-E-Y, Rivera, okay? So let me read to you what Wikipedia is saying about him here. The body of Rey Rivera was found on May 24, 2006, inside the historic Belvedere Hotel in Mount Vernon neighborhood of Baltimore, Maryland, United States. Although the event was through, self-harm, I don't want to say the word here, so they don't cancel the video. The Baltimore Police Department, that's what they rule it as. The circumstances of his death are mysterious and disputed. Rey Omar Rivera was born on June 10, 1973, to Angel and Maria Rivera at the time of his disappearance. Rivera and his wife Allison had relocated to Baltimore from California to work for his longtime friend, publisher Porter Stansberry, as a writer and a videographer for the Stansberry investment company, Stansberry & Associate Investment Research, which was a subsidiary of Agora Publishing. His disappearance. So let me tell you what happened. One more details about it. Rey Rivera went missing from his home on May 16, 2006. Okay, so the anniversary when he first went missing is coming up in May, right? So he went missing on May 16, 2006, shortly after receiving a phone call from the Agora Publishing switchboard, according to a guest staying at the Rivera residency at the time. After several days of researching for clues on his whereabouts, Rivera's in-law found his car located in a parking lot of St. Paul Street in Baltimore, Mount Vernon neighborhood near his workplace. Rivera's co-worker went to the top of a parking structure near where the car was discovered and noticed a hole in the roof of the south wing of the Belvedere Hotel next door. Police soon discovered Rivera's partially decomposed body inside the conference room under the hole. And the investigation, it says here, as police began to analyze the case, numerous aspects seemed odd about Rivera jumping out of the main roof of the Belvedere Hotel, partly due to the hotel mansard roof. There was a considerable horizontal distance between the hotel and the location of the lower roof. The vertical fall approximately would have been 177 feet, and it says here would have taken approximately 3.3 seconds. This suggests that Rivera, if he did come from the roof, and travel horizontally distance of 43 feet before the impact, would have to have a horizontal speed of 10 miles per hour, which is a speed between a fast run and a sprint for an average female wearing sports shoes. But Rey Rivera was wearing flip-flops, okay? Rey Rivera was wearing flip-flops or was barefoot and would have had a maximum run or just over 15 feet or 5 meters, 2.5 seconds. Rivera's eyeglasses and phone were found relatively intact on the lower roof near the hole. Because of the circumstances surrounding the incident are unclear, the medical examiner marked Rivera's manner of death as undetermined. Okay, after searching the house for evidence, Rivera's wife, Allison, found a note behind his computer. The confusing note included the names of prominent figures in Hollywood, movie titles, Freemasonic quotations, and additional ramblings. And the authorities analyzed the note and ruled it out to be a self-harm. They ruled it out not to be self-harm in nature. The Baltimore Police Department will soon step back from the investigation into the case after ruling Rivera's death as a probable self-harm. So, wow. The media coverage and alternative theories. Rivera's death was featured in an episode of Unsolved Mysteries in July of 2020. I'm sure a lot of people were able to watch the relaunch of Unsolved Mysteries on Netflix. And I think they did a great job in that. But this case is still, like I said, as much videos as you watch, as much podcasts that you hear about the death and disappearance of Rey Rivera, there's so many unanswered questions and things that just don't make sense, okay? So the relaunch of Unsolved Mystery featured Rey Rivera as the first episode. In addition, theory offered by the show is that Rivera may have jumped from a ledge several floors below the roof, but it would have been difficult for Rivera to access the ledge from a privately owned condominiums and offices that had windows on the ledge. And that's basically a summary of who he was and how his body was found. And so many questions, like I told you guys, so many unanswered questions about him, besides the fact that when they found the body on the roof of the Belvedere Hotel, right? I believe by then he was already been missing for like a week, right? How is it that you're gonna say to the family, like authorities are telling the family, oh yeah, he jumped, but this man flip-flop, he was still wearing his flip-flops, okay? And his phone was near him, his sunglasses were near him. Like, how are these items like intact? How can the phone didn't break, right? How come the flip-flops were still like, even if it was on him or near him, that's still very questionable, right? So many things, like that's one of the biggest one right there, how he was found like that, and some of the items were found near him, okay? And the other thing with this case, like I told you, they have been married for about 6 months by then, I believe. And they have been married for about 6 months. This man has taken, I believe it was $15,000 on Allison's credit card, the wife, to buy video equipment because he wanted to start a new project, right? And when you don't just, I don't know, I mean, being a content creator, like when you buy something to make what you like to do, like a camera or a new light or new computer, you look so much forward to using that thing to do what you like to do, right? And you don't spend $15,000 buy this equipment. He was renting out a studio space, right, to create this new project, and just out of nowhere you're gonna be like, okay, I'm not doing this anymore, I don't like this, and then he's gonna go off and jump off, right? That doesn't make sense. When you create things, like I said, like myself, like even me creating clothing, like when I buy new fabric, I cannot wait to get started, right? Because it's like, man, this is gonna make me create what I envision in my head. So I cannot wait to start making the pattern, cutting the fabric, and doing all these things. For him to have recently spent that much money as a cash advance on a credit card, or on his wife too, and him being a Latino man, protector of the wife and all of that, he's not gonna use the $15,000 was definitely investment in his part, in my opinion. It's a sacrifice investment, kind of like, okay, I know it's a lot of money, but if this equipment will make the videos that I do so great, so I'm gonna take the risk and I'm gonna go do that. But that's the thing, like he's not gonna do all of this, especially knowing that if something happens to him, like she gets the burden, his newly wife, right? She will get all the burden of the debt, and dealing with a funeral and all of that stuff. Those are things, that I will believe a person who is just starting a new life, right, will consider. Okay, I think it's just crazy. I know everybody's different, people have different ideas, but he's very protective of his new wife, obviously, right? He's very protective, and there are many things that you can see that he was. So another thing about this case is that there are things that you look at it. I know he was good friends with Porter Stansberry, which I don't really know much about him. He was the one who basically said, hey, come to Maryland, come to Baltimore from California. I can give you a job where I'm working or with this company that I built. Okay, so they moved from California to Maryland. They buy a house in Baltimore, and they're like, okay, he's gonna go work with his friend, right? And we'll see how it goes. In life, sometimes you try to something, and sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. That's just life, but you never know unless you give it a try, right? Apparently, Allison was saying that that Rey was not really liking the job that his friend had for him. He was not, he was doing it, they bought a house and all of that, one of those jobs that you cannot take just to pay the bills until you find something that you really like doing. He was doing all of that, but he really wanted to, eventually move into doing what he likes to do, the videos, writing scripts, right, trying to make movies and sell his scripts and all of that. So he was still working with his friend, that's the reason why they moved from California, but he was just kind of doing it. It wasn't really his thing, right? And you can tell that without even knowing so much about him, because on the side, I guess you can say he was still buying like equipment, right? He bought $15,000 worth of equipment to kind of continue on with his dream, right? So, I don't think a person who's doing all of that will just snap out of, will be like having this moment of whatever and just gonna go off and jump off, right? That just doesn't make sense. You see a lot of people who, I know everybody's different, but you see a lot of patterns, right? You always want to look at patterns, and people who tend to do this type of, self-harm and things like that, there is a pattern of, depression, sadness, and things like this, and on hopelessness, I guess you can say, right? Another interesting fact about Rey Rivera case is, let me just see if I can get this. There was something going on with the alarm in the new home, and let me just give you more details. In the Rey Rivera case, it says here, the home alarm was triggered twice in the days leading up to his disappearance. Once day before, and one on the day that he vanished. Alison Rivera, Rey's wife, reported sensing a great deal of fear in Rey on the night the alarm went off, which was unusual for him. The police initially suggested that a squirrel triggered the alarm, but this theory was challenged due to the window latch needing to be moved to trigger the alarm. So that to me, the alarm is such a big red flag to me. Let me tell you why. Because in this case, you have somebody who, they're new in the town, right? I think a lot of people who create content for, videographers, and like, I guess you can say YouTubers, we always, we tend to go to bed late, right? We're always editing. There's always something to edit, right? And the alarm in their house is going off late at night, right? And it didn't just happen one time. It happened twice, right? So the first, right? Let me see, when was that they called? Let me see. This is right. The first alarm, give me 1 second so I get the details. So the next night says here that while living in Baltimore, the couple's home security alarm went off twice. It first sounded on Monday, May 16, 2006, around 1 a.m., okay? Alison woke up to the blaring noise, looked around the bathroom, and saw that Rey was already out of bed. With the house lights still off, she went downstairs to investigate. Suddenly, Rey came around the corner with a baseball bat. Family and friends describe Rey as not being afraid of anything. Still, on that particular night, Alison saw a look of terror on his face that she hasn't seen before. The police arrived at the house shortly after the alarm went off, and after checking the property, the police suggested that a squirrel triggered the alarm. That's probably one of the worst things. You're already fearful, and that is the last thing you want to hear. Like, oh, it's nothing, go back to bed. Like, being awakened by an alarm at 1 a.m. and seeing your husband like with a baseball bat ready to attack whoever it is, and then that in itself, like, how do you go back to bed after that? Even if the police say, oh, it's just an animal who did that, don't worry about it, go back to bed. Even if it, that happens, you're still very shaken up to be awakened in the middle of the night by something like this. And Alison said, particularly the wife said, I have never seen that look of fear in his eyes, right? So he was definitely sensing something was going to happen to him. But anyways, so the alarm goes off. Okay, the police say it's an animal who set it up, nothing to worry about it. Later, the same morning, Alison, on the same day, right, had to leave. No, excuse me. So that was the 15th on Monday. May 16, the next night, right after the first alarm went off, on Tuesday, May 16, around 1 a.m., the couple's home alarm was triggered for the second and final time. Ray looked even more terrified the night before. Allison realized one of their living room windows appeared to have been tampered with from the outside. The police came to Rivera's house and once again suggested an animal set off the alarm, and the alarm was never was triggered again. So imagine the first shock of the alarm going off, and then it happened the next night. Like, wouldn't you be all nervous already? You will be like all nervous already and expecting, you know how the minute you wake up at one time during the course of the evening, I guess the overnight hours, you wake up one time, and for some reason our body time changes so quickly, and it's expecting you to already be awake. And if you wake up at 3 in the morning, just randomly one day just to use the bathroom, the next day you cannot do kind of like the same thing. It's so weird. And imagine you're like expecting, okay, the alarm is gonna go off. Is that, I feel like, you're looking out to see what's gonna happen, or you're trying to catch the animal, right? Because you don't want to be awakened like that, right? I don't know, but I would be so nervous, right? Just wait. The shaking off of waking up like that with the alarm going off, that's a shaking up in itself. And the fact that they had to call the police is also very terrifying, I think. Not that they call the police, but that they have to wait for them and tell what happened, all of that, going through all of that, So the second day that the alarm went off, in that morning, May 16, Allison had to leave for a multiple-day business trip to Richmond, Virginia. Ray made Allison breakfast and walked her to the car as she drove away, okay? So that was the last time, right? That was the last time they saw each other. But before she left for her business trip, the wife, Allison, Allison tells a story how she's a runner. She normally will go to the track to run, right? On a regular basis. And Ray will never come with her, right? But it seems as though, excuse me, I thought I heard. But it seems as though like that day he wanted to go with her, right? Like when you're so used to doing your thing on your own, and then people are like, I'm coming with you. And you're like, why? Why are you coming with me? Like, I got it. You don't need to do that. And then, no, let me just go. And you're like, oh my gosh, what's happening? Why don't you just tell me what's going on? Why you want to, accompany me everywhere? So he went with her as she was running the track, and he sat on the bleachers, right? And Allison is saying how one man randomly just showed up and started to approach her, wanted to kind of like talk to her, and Ray, when he saw that, he immediately walked towards them, right? And kind of like, it started talking to the man like, what, I'm assuming she didn't say this, but I'm assuming just kind of questioning like, what do you want? What are you doing here? What do you need? That's the behavior of somebody who's a little paranoid. It's almost like it's the behavior of somebody who knows that people are after him. It's that simple. That is the behavior of somebody who has been warned, perhaps, of somebody who has been threatened. I mean, your alarm in your house is going off overnight hours, right? And then you see this man randomly appearing as your wife doing her regular thing in the track, like going for a run. And you have to understand, when the alarm went off, he actually got terrified, right? He was terrified to the point that he grabbed a bat, right? And he was like, she said, Allison, this is from the wife. She said, I had never seen him so scared as he did that day. So I feel like there was something that he was aware of that he had not shared with her. So that's why she was so easily able to pick up this strange behavior on his part. wanting to go with her to the track when he never does, right? Um, Getting the bat and looking so fearful when the alarm went off, right? It's just like, she's like, oh man, he's acting a little strange, right? He's acting a little strange, but I'm looking at my time to see if I have enough time to record this whole video. But like I said before, you everybody, I might do a second part, okay? So another interesting thing about this case, which is a big question mark in my when I look at it every time, right? Later that afternoon, so Alice on leave for a business trip, but later that afternoon, one of Allison's co-worker, her name is Claudia, arrived at the house to spend the night, and she got there sometime between 4 p.m. and 6:30. Claudia was relaxing in the upstairs guest room while Ray was working in his office next to the guest room. Claudia recalled that someone called Ray on his cell phone. Neither she or anyone else knows who made the call or the purpose of the call. And phone records will later show that the call originated from the Agora switchboard. Agora is the company that his friend Porter Stanberry owned, right? They were working there. So, okay. So, before I continue to tell you everything that happened there, I'm gonna tell you why I have a big question mark regarding the friend coming over for a business trip to spend the night. Claudia, the friend. What is that? You're gonna tell me that Allison's friend Claudia is comfortable enough to stay in the house of her friend Allison while she's not there and her husband is there? That is just, I don't know, I would never do something like that, right? I don't care how much expensive the hotel is, I would never do anything like that. And that's just like one thing. Hey Claudia, you still coming to my house? Oh yeah, I'll be there, I'll stay there, but FYI, Claudia, the alarm has been going off twice already this week. We have no idea what is setting it up, but if the alarm goes off, you should call the police, you should do this. If I'm Claudia, I'll be like, I'm good, thanks. Like, there are things that you have to kind of like pay attention to. Like, if you have a business trip and you want to stay over your friend's house, but your friend is saying, you know what, Claudia, I'm actually not going to be here when that happens, but if you still want to come, you can still come. That, just knowing that your friend Allison is not going to be there while you go there, why even go there anyways? It's just not like, it's just not convenient. It's not like it would not look right for you to be there while your friend is down there. So even if the husband is there, like, because the husband is there by himself, like, that's the thing. You shouldn't even continue with those plans, right? Because don't you, when you plan it, stay away with somebody, you call them, hey, can I stay in your house? I'm going there for a business trip. Oh, you know what? Actually, I'm not going to be here that weekend. But you can still come. Oh, no, that's okay. That's okay. I was just wondering if I could do that. Why would you stay there knowing that your friend is not going to be there? Wouldn't you feel uncomfortable? I think I have so many questions for Claudia, the friend. I mean, the fact that we don't even know what she looks like, or we don't hear like her interview. And you know why I have a lot of questions about her, and this is, I probably have to do a second, but I will, correct? Because I have so much to cover on this case. Like, why? She's the last person who saw Ray. Why would you persist, right, to continue to go and stay at your friend's house, knowing that your friend is not going to be there? And like, do you know that the alarm has been triggered twice in a row in the same week? I would be like, oh, it looks to me like there's something going on. I'd rather not stay. I will be I mean, you're shaking up at the alarm going off over overnight hours in your own house. Imagine at somebody else's house. You don't know how that, you don't know the system. You don't know how to disarm the alarm. What if Ray one day wanted to go out with his friends and come back late? And the alarm goes off. Do you know the code? Do you know what to do about it? Why would you continue to go on with this I want to stay at your house trip? Well, she's not even there. What was the point of that stay? Right? There's something with that. It's so clear, like looking at it from this perspective, from the outside. Why would the friend continue with this plan of staying there? Because if you, like I said, if you call your friend and say, hey, I'm going to be there the weekend, can I stay at your house? And your friend says to you, actually, I'm going to be away too. I'm going to have a business trip the same week, the same day. Oh, okay, never mind. I'm sorry. I just wanted to check. It's not like, well, my husband will be here. Be like, yeah, no, it's okay. I'd rather not. It's just, if it doesn't look good, like, there's a reason for that, right? Because look at what happened now. Gloria was the last person who saw Ray alive. The last person who spoke to him in that house. The last person who heard this phone call that he took, right? And Gloria doesn't want to show her face now. It was in 2006. Can we hear her side of the story? Can she come out and do an interview? Why did you agree to still stay in the house knowing that your friend was not going to be there? What was the reasoning behind it, right? You couldn't put a hotel on a credit card? It's a business trip, right? It was only for one night. Did your friend tell you that the alarm has been going on, you still persisted to stay? That didn't give you like, kind of like, oh, I don't want something weird going on, but their alarm keeps going off overnight. I don't want to be there, right? Why would you continue to do something like that? It's just, I really hope, there's nothing behind it, but because when people don't clarify things, it leads to people to speculate. And just as everything that I said, it just doesn't look good. Why would you want to stay in a house where your friend is not even there? Even if he tells you, oh, Ray will be any trouble because he's working on his video thing in the office. Yeah, but your friend is not there. It's not that uncomfortable, right? Did they tell you, like I said, was she aware that the alarm was going off? And like in Allison's part, I know she went through a lot, but I'll be like, oh man, this is the day. I mean, my friend's supposed to stay here this week, but everything that's happening, I'd rather not. Like, my husband was just terrified the other night because the alarm went off. I don't want him to have to be responsible also for, for having my friend here too, if something goes wrong, right? Because if she was concerned about Ray, in my opinion, she would have to cancel a business trip and be like telling her boss, there's some situation going on in my house. There's a behavior that I'm seeing in my husband. It's not looking good. I don't think it would have been ideal for her to be like, okay, I'll have my friend Claudia look over him while I'm gone. That still doesn't make sense, right? Why would you want to bring that responsibility into your friend? Because I look at what happened to, right? Anything can happen, right? So it's just so many questions about this guest in their house. Specifically when we know, right, that it's usually, there's some type of answer that the person who last sees somebody before they die has the answer to. There's something, right, with that. So I'm running out of time. I'm still not gonna do the second part. Let me know, guys, what you think about this. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming back to my channel. Thank you so much for watching the video, listening in the podcast. Excuse me. God bless. Hi everybody, this is Julissa. Thank you so much for coming to my YouTube channel. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next video. Have a good day everybody. God bless.